Hey everyone, how's it going? Hold on, let me. Hey. I like my COVID cut. It's looking terrible. It's pretty bad, isn't it? Let's get the camera off. What we're doing today is just more wiring of track. I promised tortoise switch machines, so we're not ready to do that yet, I don't think. I installed, is the word? I put in, this is my engine servicing track. Let me see if I can get a better shot of what's going on here for you. Come on, camera cord, work with me. Okay, so engine servicing track. This comes off of the yard. And then this is where I'm basically going to store engines and Midland Falls, maintenance of way equipment and that kind of thing. Two sections that this track right here, it's a good shot of it, split into two sections. This section here, and then this section here. This section here and this section here are two separate electrically isolated sections. So what's going to happen is eventually I'm going to have a switch panel on the front of my layout that allow me to turn the power on and off to these sections so that I can shut down power to any of one of these. So that if I'm running trains and I got an engine sitting here, a locomotive sitting here, it won't have power being supplied to it. There's going to be an addition for this power, sort of isolated power section here, where this could be flipped from either track control or a programming track, so that if I want to do any programming of locomotives, or somebody brings over a locomotive that they want to run on my layout, they can throw it on this section of track right here, and they'll be able to get it in the system and get it ready to run. So that is the plan in the future. I've got this Atkinson's engine facility. That will go essentially right here, right where the SD40 is right now. So for the most part, locomotives will be stored here, and then maybe additional locomotives stored under the shelter of the engine facility. The Midland Falls Railroad will have two locomotives. They'll have this SD40, which will be patched for the Midland Falls Railroad, and then they're going to have a GP40. GP40? Yeah, GP40, I believe, or GP38. It's GP38-2, I believe, which is a leased locomotive. If you're familiar with my layout, you've seen it in the past. Hello, how's it going? Let Rain Miniature. So, future plans will be to power these things separately. Right now, I'm just going to run everything to the main bus line, just so I can get stuff moving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill feeder wires, and I'm going to solder everything in place. But I'm going to run everything to this terminal block here. I'm going to run the terminal block to the main bus line, because eventually I'll be using this terminal block in the what do you call it? In the use of the control panel. Once I set that up. So let's get started. First steps will be, let me move this camera in a position that's a little bit easier on myself. Sorry for the messy background, but It is what it is. Yo, I'm missing a drill bit. Hope I'm not missing the one I need. I think I am. Nope, I got the one I need. One thing I'm looking to do is improve the video quality. Let's see, where do I want to put everything here? Where do I want to put anything? I know I'm going to be photographing. See, this is some things you need to think about when you're building a model railroad. I know I'm going to be photographing locomotives on this portion of the track quite a bit. This is going to be like a central location for photographing equipment. So I think I want to keep my feeder wire kind of off of this portion of it as much as possible. So if I put it back here, you know, this is where the building is. I think it makes sense to put it there. Because, you know, the building will be obscuring some of it, and it'll be, I can put it way over here. These are the things you think about when you're building a model railroad. Let's put it over here, and we'll meet them in the middle. Okay. Let's see. Let's put it right. Oops. Wrong way. That's one. And this one will put kind of in the middle of where the building is going to be so that it is well hidden. Okay, that's two. Trying to keep it away from my precious cars. So that means it's all going to go underneath here. And where we're going, I already got a terminal block right there. That's okay. I'll put it right next to it. Easy peasy. I do want to run another. Yep. That way I can get wires through. Yep, no little helper today. Thanks for the clean room comment. It is here. Let me dispel the notion that it's super clean because it's not. So, actually, this is, you know what? This is fairly clean. This is fairly clean, I guess. You know, I got some wires running for my space heater. We got paint for the upstairs living room, and I've been putting off painting that. Come over here though. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that shouldn't be there that's there right now. Swing it around this way though. This is where my office space is. This is where I work my 9-to-5 job in the middle of the COVID crisis we are currently in. But I will say the one thing that does help kind of keep things cleaner is I got this guy right here. Oop, can you see that at all? This is a sort of wheeled workbench. You see how messy that workbench is. So it is not as clean as you'd think it would be. It's mostly just confined to that messy workbench. But it's wheeled so I can wheel it around the room where I need it to. It normally goes in front of some of the stuff on the other side of the room to hide just how messy the rest of that stuff gets. So it's an illusion. It's all an illusion. Honestly, if I weren't doing videos, live videos or YouTube videos otherwise, I don't know that this room would be as clean as it is. But I will say having a clean room is extremely helpful, or organized room anyway, because you will spend so much of your time just trying to find stuff otherwise. And my availability is not great these days for working on the layout. Yeah, my availability is not great for working on the layout these days, and so anytime I can get it, I'm going to take it. And I'm going to use it to work on the layout as opposed to cleaning the layout, or as opposed to searching all over the place for stuff. Because I haven't been keeping it clean or organized all the time, and it's turned into a hot mess. Cough a little. Measure it on the table. Okay, so that's going to go here. That's that one. Nope. What are you guys up to? Are you guys working on some layouts currently? You got some stuff in process? I would be curious to know. I'm always interested in what other people are doing in the hobby. I meant to put together a layout progress video this weekend. Show you guys kind of where I'm at on the layout in a more professional, higher quality manner. But I've got a lot of work to do for my day job, and so don't have time to spend editing. So maybe next weekend. One thing that take a look at my track plan on my website or my earlier track plan video that I got posted on YouTube. You might notice that some things have changed in this area. I have it's still up. I had 2 tracks that kind of like come off here section that I could store 2 locomotives and then choose, between them which one I wanted to run that day. And so I just pull, one would sit on one track and one would sit on the other track, and then I would just pull whichever I wanted off of whatever track it needed to be on and run it. Cool layout. So you're using that TCU Wi-Fi throttle, huh? That thing looks pretty cool, I gotta say. Have you run it much lately? I'm curious to know what the range of the Wi-Fi signal is like on that thing, if it's pretty good or not. I'm on an ESU system, and I like the system overall a lot, but the range of the throttle sucks. I'm in a 20 by 14 foot room, and if I get 20 feet away, I've got a Wi-Fi route. I actually had to buy a Wi-Fi router because the Wi-Fi that came, the Wi-Fi antenna, I guess, that comes in the booster is so weak. It doesn't put out much of a signal, and the throttles themselves are extremely bad. So bad that I would be standing, just on the other side of the room, and the signal would drop, and I would lose connection to my base station, and the railroad would shut down just from standing 20 feet from the booster, the booster. So that's frustrating. So I got the Wi-Fi router to help boost the signal, and it does boost the signal. But I'm still occasionally running into problems with the signal dropping out. Now I do have a baby monitor upstairs that is on. It's not on Wi-Fi, but it's on. It's using the same. What do you call it? Signal. Let me show you guys how to do these T connections here. So this is like a little flat connector, but like it's got a hole in the back. You're not gonna be able to see that if it's not gonna focus. Focus. And this is 22 gauge wire, so it's very thin wire. And what I don't want to do is strip the wire, stick it in there, squeeze it down, and then that wire still pull out because it's so thin. So what I do is I loop the wire, like double up the wire, so you can see right there, to give myself much more surface area, much more wire surface area, so that it slides in like it does. And then when I crunch it down with these, I don't know what they call them, crimps. When I crimp it down, it just makes a much more solid connection. Anyway, I hear, so ESU is coming out with new throttles, new wireless throttles that are supposed to have much better antennas internally on them. But people have come up with their own solutions. They're pulling apart throttles and installing their own antennas. And yuck, right? I don't want to do that. I may have to. I may just purchase one of those antennas with the intention of doing it one day if I get fed up enough with it. But yeah, so that was it TSU. Yeah, the TSU Wi-Fi throttle, that looks pretty good. I saw that on Ken Patterson's show, and it seemed like it could do the trick. I do like the little. I'm not totally against the little spinny wheel, the little thumb wheel for throttling up and down. I think that's pretty good. It's a good one-handed operation kind of solution. I like the bigger wheel that I've got on mine, but it tends to lend itself a little more to two-handed operation. I mean, you can do it one-handed for sure. It's just a little more tricky. I don't like the way that Digitrax throttles. They're the tiny little knobs. Not super fan of those. But all the other model railroaders in my area are big fans of Digitrax. So I think it's one of those cases of to each their own. One thing I do plan on doing though, and which is why I'm not super concerned right now about my throttles, is I do plan on getting a proto throttle. So I think that that'll be actually what does what I do most of my day-to-day driving around of locomotives with is a proto throttle. I think it would work well with my ethos, my model railroading style. Get some light down in here. Okay. I'm just going to keep things super simple. Can you see everything okay? You can see everything okay-ish. I'm just going to keep things super simple, and I'm going to go black on one side, red on the other. Where do those pliers go? There they are. Keep the things in the camera ready so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's see here. I shouldn't do this, but I am going to do it because I'm lazy. Should probably use a traditional screwdriver for that, but I am lazy. So I'm going to do it my way. Well, let me make sure that wire is the right way around so I can. I hear there are other model railroaders doing Saturday morning live streams. I don't know who they are. I'd like to check out somebody else's live stream just to see how they do it. I haven't really watched very many. I've watched what's his name? The guy who does the BNSF Planes Division, Railfan 2020. Watched his live streams. And that's about it. I haven't watched hardly anyone's live streams. He hasn't done any in a little while. Come on, what? Come on. This is not wanting to. It's not wanting to do what I want it to do. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to do it this way then. Let's see here. Come on. Come on, you jerk. Hey, this is a not well hidden secret of mine, but I absolutely hate wiring. And I absolutely hate wiring underneath a table the most. For obvious reasons, it's just. Let me grab it here. I hate trying to get underneath here and it just sucks. I'll put the rest over here. Nope. That's not what I wanted to do. MF stands, thank you for the question. MF stands for Medellin Falls Railroad. There is a town in northeastern Washington state called Medellin Falls. It is a real place, it is a real location. And if you look it up on Google Earth, you'll see just how beautiful it is in that spot of the world. I'll tell you the whole story of how the layout got its name. Let me move my microphone to a little bit of a better location for you guys. So I have always been a big fan of the Model Railroad magazine project layouts. What I've liked about them is because they've small, kind of focused, well-themed little layouts that, you know, they would go step by step through the entire production build of the layout. And I'm a guy who likes how things are created as much. I love the creation of things as much as I love things that are finished. And so I always really love those project layouts. And kind of a sort of a theme to a lot of the naming of them was kind of named after, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a idyllic sounding kind of name. I think there was like the Turtle Creek layout, and there's like the, you know, oh, I can't think of the names of them right now, but they all had these sort of like kind of railroady sort of like fun little names. They kind of made them sound like short lines. They weren't named after, you know, the Union Pacific is a big sounding name, right? The even something like the Illinois Central, that's the whole state of Illinois. But something like the Turtle Creek layout, or, you know, the Turtle Creek Railroad, or, you know, it's going to come up with some names because I can't think of them right now, but like Lone Pine Railroad. Those things are like small sounding, little kind of independent sounding little layout, little railroads. So I always sort of liked that kind of name. And when I was building my, not previous layout, but the layout before that, it was a Lego model railroad. Oops, I need to grab something real quick. Just a second. So I had a Lego model railroad that I would that I needed a name for, and I needed a location for, and I kind of was like at that point, kind of like, oh, Woodsville Terminal is another one. That's my Confluence layout. So like, you know, I had these little. So I need a name for this Lego model railroad that I was building for myself, and I needed a location, and I kind of wanted to have a real world location for it. And I would do my own sort of freelance railroad, but I like the idea of like choosing a real world location as inspiration. And so even though I would go my own direction with it, it would be kind of like a what if sort of scenario. Ah, dang it. Ah, nuts. I hate this sometimes. Shoot. Here we go. Occasionally one of these won't go on very well. There we go. So it all started with my favorite type of car, which was a 2-bay covered hopper. That's my favorite kind of car. And the reason why I love it so much is because, especially on little layouts, first of all, it's got like great detail. There's lots of little, 2-bay covered hoppers have roof walks, and they have lots of little wire detail, and they're kind of like a really interesting shape as well. And, and they're 2 bays, so they're a short car, which on a small layout is a very good thing. You can fit more cars in the same amount of space. If you have 5 2-bay hoppers, it takes up considerably less space than 5, 4-bay hoppers. Hello, Mr. Forkham. How's it going? Yes, it would be easier to screw the wires to the terminal and then the terminal to that. That would have been smart, but I'm not a smart guy. Anyway, so I love the 2-bay hopper, and I figured if I'm doing a small layout, find something you love and make that the theme. So I love 2-bay hoppers, and the main industry one of the main industries that uses 2-bay hoppers is the cement industry. Because cement is heavy, and so they would need smaller cars. So basically, I just did a Google search for like areas of the country that have cement factories served by rail, and up popped Medellin Falls, which has a very large cement, or had, it's gone now, but at the time I was doing the research, it was on its last legs, a very large cement facility. And so I was like, cool, that's great. What else do I need in a model railroad? Because this place looks cool, but I want to make sure that if I'm building a model railroad, I got everything I want coming out of it. I like bridges and tunnels. Well, turns out that right around Medellin Falls, there's a couple bridges. There's some tunnels. So that fit another sort of requirement for myself. Uh-oh, I do not think this wire is long enough. I would not call that long enough. Shoot, I need to make another wire. Poopy. Let's see. And that was basically the only requirements at the time was wanted a cement factory, and I wanted the location of bridges and tunnels, and I would kind of make up the rest of it as I went. So at the time, I called it the Medellin Falls Terminal Railroad, MFTR. Oh, and the other requirement was I wanted to have the Burlington Northern Santa Fe kind of close by because I wanted to run their equipment. They were my favorite layout when I was a kid was the Burlington Northern, and of course that got bought up by or merged together with the Santa Fe to make the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So that was a requirement. So I knew that the railroad in the area exchanged with the BNSF, so that was an additional requirement of mine. So I started working on that Lego layout, and eventually I got to the point where it was like I actually went down to my local model railroad shop just to see, hey, what is new in model railroading these days? Because I haven't really been around for a while. I hadn't been around model railroading for a while, and then I saw just how awesome the models were. I mean, you had wire grab irons on everything. You had all this fine photo etch detail. It was just gorgeous models. And so I was like, holy cow, I got to get me some of these. So I was at that point that I switched my focus from Lego to HO scale. But I kept the same location of Medellin Falls. And then I really, at that point, began focusing on this idea of a prototype freelanced railroad, kind of based on the location of the real location of Midland Falls. But what if scenario, like what if I had basically taken over railroading in the area at that point? What would that look like? Just to give myself a little more freedom. So it was called the Midland Falls Terminal Railroad because I thought terminal was kind of cool sounding. It had the sense of like an inevitable end in some ways. So MFT Railroad was my URL for the longest time. And then I figured out that terminal meant something completely different in railroading terms than I thought it did. I thought it meant end of the line. Like, if you were to follow these tracks to the end, they would terminate. It doesn't connect with anything else, which is true for the real town of Midland Falls. However, that's not what terminal means. Terminal means it's a connection between two railroads, which was the exact opposite of what I was trying to accomplish. So I dropped the T and went with Midland Falls Railroad. And that remains the way it is to this day. Oh, lots of people saying things. Yeah, there's a joke about the MF Railroad being double entendre. I will say there might be a little bit of that in the naming of this. Although, I'm being perfectly honest, the initials of the other sort of like a big impetus for the MF Railroad is the initials of my name are M and F. So there's a little bit of like, hey, it's like me. Yeah, this is annoying. I wanted a name that would be easily remembered by people. There are some really awesome layouts out there, and I have a hard time remembering the names. But like a simple name is easily remembered. Some of my favorite layouts have nice, simple names. Utah Belt. Allagash Railroad. Ooh, shoot. Seaboard Central. Come on. Ugh, I hate doing this upside down. I should not be doing this with the power tool. Famous last words, right? Woo! It worked. Yeah, the naming of things was always kind of really interesting, I thought. There is part of me that kind of just wishes I would have called it the Ponderay Valley Railroad, which is what it's actually named in real life. But I'm making quite a few changes to sort of the day-to-day operations of this layout as compared to the Ponderay Valley Railroad, the actual real railroad that I'm basing mine on. There's a number of things that are very similar. But as much room as I have for this layout, I can't really accurately model all the industry that's available in the area in its proper location. So I'm using like real world names for towns and stuff. So I've got town names like Usk, Washington, which is a real place. At Usk, there is a paper mill, a real-time paper mill, which I have on my layout as well. The difference is that I've also got like the cement factory from Meadowland Falls. I've moved it to Usk, Washington as well. And the utility pole manufacturing from Newport, Washington, I've moved to Usk, Washington as well. So I've taken all these industries. Man, look at this massive wiring I got underneath here now. Holy cow. Does anyone know what I'm doing with all this wiring? So I've taken basically the flavor of the area and I put it all in one town. I've got Riley Creek Lumber represented, but it's a very small spur in comparison to what it looks like in real life. I added a steel, like a metal recycling facility, steel recycling facility, so I could run some old beat up boxcars and gondolas. That doesn't exist in real life. There's a real place that's named the Pacific Steel and Recycling, but they don't have rail service. I've taken a tunnel that exists further down the line and put it in front of Usk so I can have a tunnel in my layout. And I've taken Box Canyon Bridge, which is way down the line and no longer in service, and put it back into service and stuck it right next to Usk, Washington. So I'm taking 3 or 4 different kind of city areas and smashing them all, cities, towns, smashing them all together into one layout. So I'm getting the feel of the area, but I'm not accurately representing it. So I didn't feel right about using the actual railroad's name. There's an additional issue there with using the actual railroad's name, in that a number of the industries that I'm representing are either shut down. In the case of the cement factory, that's shut down. And they just announced this month that the paper mill is being shut down as well. And there's something about like modeling like a struggling little railroad in a forgotten part of the world, and really highlighting the struggles in the layout itself, but also like pretending like some of the stuff that happened in real life didn't happen. I kind of didn't. I was a little. A lot of people lost their jobs when that cement factory went away. A lot of people are losing their jobs now that this paper mill is going away. So if I can divorce myself from reality a little bit, and that way when they look up, when somebody does a Google search for Ponderay paper mill, they find the real thing as opposed to my fake, like, hey, everything's still going on here. Nothing's shut down, guys. It's hard to explain. I feel a little bit more comfortable with a bit of an abstraction from reality when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm building a version of reality that a little more prosperity in the area than actually exists in real life. I'm pretending that the cement factory didn't go away. I'm pretending that there's more industry with rail service, while still kind of maintaining what my initial sort of desire was for the layout, which was a sense of a railroad that's kind of small and struggling. So yeah, so I'm not losing that sense, but the abstraction helps me kind of feel better about the changes that I do make for the purposes of fun and play. Let me get a little water for my soldering iron here. I'll be right back. All right. Let's see here. Oil that hinge. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they are in rough shape over there in the world of POVA, for sure. They've it's funny, I chose this area kind of by accident. I only chose this area because there was a cement factory at one time and there was a tunnel and a couple bridges. But I have since sort of fallen in love with the area quite a bit, just in the research I've done on the area. The history of how it was settled. And it used to be a pretty bustling place. It had a lot of lumber, which I've kind of grown to really love. The idea of timber and the model railroad, and timber and the railroad, and everything that goes along with that. And I'm doing a modern layout, so I'm not, going to have logs on trains, cars so much, but that's why I do have a utility pole manufacturer, and I do have lumber mills, so I can run paper products and get wood moving on the layout. But yeah, they used to have a lot of that, and then the cement factory was very important to the area. And when the paper mill opened up, that did a lot to keep the railroad going. And they had some good years, and then the cement factory closed. That took a lot of cars away from the railroad. And the railroad was municipally owned, so it was owned by Burlington Northern last before it became a municipal, I don't know what you call it, resource or whatever, in the 80s, I believe. To keep the railroad in the area to serve these industries. When the cement factory kind of went away, they stopped making cement there. They started just storing cement there. So the railroad was moving cars to Midland Falls to store cement. And then that went away. So they were kind of down to, and then they had a number of lumber mills close. So a lot of that traffic went away. And the railroad focused on a lot. They did a lot of car storage and they had a locomotive repair and refurbishing facility. So they got a number of locomotives. Railroads would send them their locomotives, and they would clean them up and repair them and install parts and repaint them. So they were getting money that way. And then there was the new regulations that came in place from the Department of Transportation that required bridge inspections and required any repairs needed to bridges. Really put a damper on things, because the famous, I call it famous anyway, Box Canyon Bridge, which is sort of like the key, sort of like the number one. Like if you think of the Pend Oreille Valley Railroad, you think of their Box Canyon Bridge. That would have needed to get inspected and then repaired, and they knew it was going to be millions of dollars to do so, and they didn't have the money to do that. So they abandoned that bridge and everything north of that, which included Meadowland Falls. And at the time, it was, they weren't really using it. The Lions Club was using it for excursion trains. You would take people on train rides from Newport to Meadowland Falls and back through the gorgeous scenery, through some beautiful tunnels, across that bridge. But they can no longer do that. So the railroad only operated as far north as Usk, Washington. And then Usk has just lost its paper mill. So I don't know what the railroad's going to do now. They may just have to shut down. There was talk about bringing a smelter into the area that would have required rail traffic, which would have been cool. But tribal nations did not want that. They did not want a smelter on their tribal lands. And I do not blame them, honestly. It would have brought some much needed work to the area, but it would not have been very clean work. So I don't know what the railroad's going to do. They're looking for new customers for the paper mill, because that was their number one. That was their number one business for a while. So my layout is going to focus on it's set in 2018. It's set after the time that the bridge closed in real life, although on my layout, I'm pretending like it's still open and that they just closed everything north of the bridge. I'm going to pretend like there was a washout north of the bridge. And so the bridge itself is still used, but everything north of that, not used. So excursion trains will take riders from Sand Point to the bridge and then back again. That's sort of my pretend way of handling that situation. Oops. What did I just do? I can't see what I'm looking at when I'm soldering this thing on. Somebody's at my door. I don't need door alarm in this house. I don't need a security system. I got 2 basset hounds. Here's my trick for making sure I can solder stuff to the track and it stays there. What the heck is going on? It's just not staying on it. Oh, that's not pretty, but that's what I make files for. So yeah, in my world, the bridge is still open. In my world, the cement factory is still open. They just moved from their old location in Midland Falls to a brand new state-of-the-art cement factory in Usk, Washington, in order to save. In my world, it's like, well, the old factory was getting old. They needed a new one. And so instead of shutting down for several years to build a new factory, they continued operation of the old factory while they're building the new one in Usk, Washington, which is much further down the line. It's like another 40 miles down the line. And so therefore, railroad wouldn't have to move materials as far, and maintenance of track work would not have to be as serious because there would be fewer tunnels and bridges for it to cross, etc. What else? Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, and then the addition of a few additional industries that didn't exist in real life. The interchange at Sandpoint, I'm trying to keep pretty realistic to how it works now. So Union Pacific, this track right here is Union Pacific main line. Runs right next to the Sandpoint interchange tracks that Midland Falls use, or the POVA uses with Bunch of Northern Santa Fe. Sandpoint is a really busy place in the real world for mostly the BNSF. So it's cool to have that here as well. Okay, so let's, everything's wired up now, everything's soldered together, so we have to test it. So let's clean up the track work a little bit and let's test. I want to see this thing run. Just cleaning up I'm filing down the top of the rails where I just soldered, because I'm a messy solderer and I use too much solder and tend to get it everywhere. Okay, clean that off. Got some plastic flashing from the isolation joiners. All right. And if I did everything correctly, crossing fingers, everything should work as planned. Let's turn on the layout. It takes a little while to get this thing started. One more thing I don't like about the ESU system is you gotta like, it's an Android device, so you gotta power it on and wait for it to come on and wait for it to connect to the router, and just takes a little while. It's like starting up a computer. Vacuum the sanded off solder first. It's a good idea, actually. I won't be vacuuming, but I will blow it off. How about that? I didn't get very much on the tracked surface, so we're in good shape. I'm messy, but I'm not that messy. Okay. Start up a program. Can you guys see? So one thing I do not like, and I gotta fix this, is my sounds automatically turned on my Union Pacific consist. We'll select the MFR 7897. That's this guy right here. We'll start it up. Here we go. Here's crossing fingers. Yeah, I like the big touch screen too. You can see right here, it's got like all these symbols. So you got lights and symbols for everything you're going to have on your lamp, which is really cool. Okay. So we're going to see if going with isolation gap works. So far, so good. Yay! Hey, I know you.
Oh, you do now?
I do know you. What's going on?
Oh, I wanted to know if my fish have been fed.
Yes, I fed him yesterday.
Good. What up today?
I'm not fed him today. You want to feed him?
Yes, I do. And I want to feed them some bubbles.
Okay.
Okay. But first I want to watch you.
I'm just running trains really quick, making sure it still works.
And hug you. Because I love you.
I love you too, baby.
I can hear your heart.
You can hear my heart?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it still going?
I don't know. I guess it doesn't work. Are you doing some kind of video?
Why are you still going? Oh, I switched to the wrong locomotive, that's why. One bad thing about touchscreens. I'm on YouTube right now, by the way.
Oh. Okay.
Which means you're on YouTube as well. Is a touchscreen responsive enough to run trains? Are there any delays? You know what? It's a good question. I would say there is a bit of a delay, but I run trains slow. It's not anything that would affect anything. It's not a video game. You're not trying to, you're not doing Twitch commands or anything like that. And I don't know how much of that delay is just between, the DCC. I'm not a big on electronics guy, so I couldn't tell you how much that delay is. It doesn't bother me. What does bother me is because it is touchscreen, I can't. Here, let me show you. Turn the audio off so it doesn't. Because it is touchscreen, I have to look at the buttons in order to know which one I'm going to push. Now there are 3 programmable buttons. See, and if I accidentally touch the screen, and then like what had just happened was I accidentally tapped the screen. I switched over to the other locomotive, this guy right here. We're there, and so like I wasn't controlling this one anymore. But anyways, it would be nice to sort of like lock the screen and then have a button to unlock it, so that you didn't do that. Do you hear that? I can't tell if it's supposed to be like that. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be like that. So it's really nice for programming consists. It's really nice for. I'm not a big DCC guy, so like memorizing like F5 or F2 or whatever, that's difficult for me. But like setting up locomotives, pick choosing from locomotives. You can program an accessory panel into here as well, which I'm going to be using for my hidden staging. So having all that is very cool as well. So it's great. I'm slipping off screen. I apologize. It's great for like all that kind of stuff. If you're kind of an idiot when it comes to DCC, that's why I like the system so much. But the touchscreen does make it a little difficult. You do have 3 programmable buttons here, so I can put my bell on one, and my horn on another, and long horn on one, and or short horn on the other, or maybe the coupler sound on one. So there are those. So it's got good points. It's got bad points. But yeah. All right. Well, that is going to be it today, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Active braking is something I'll be looking into for sure as well. But yeah, so thanks for stopping by, folks. I really appreciate you coming by here today. And let me exit out of this and power down the throttle. One other thing to consider with the throttle is the battery life is not super great on it. You need to, if you're going to have a full, it'll run for a few hours. So you can get like an operating session out of it, but you'll want to charge between sessions. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. The lighting is terrible right now. Thanks for stopping by today, folks. I really appreciate it. Got some much needed wiring done, so that was awesome. Ran some trains. That was awesome. But we've come to the end of today's stream. I'll be back again next Saturday at 9 a.m. Central, where we will be doing something else. We may just be running trains that day. I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll make it happen. But I appreciate all the interaction today. My computer was like on the other side of the room while I'm working, so it's a little difficult for me to communicate constantly. But such is life. Anyways, thanks again for stopping by. I'll see everyone next Saturday at 9 a.m. Central. See you guys.